Hello, this is Renee Seeley, President of American Bonsai Association of Sacramento. For our upcoming annual show, we have prepared a short video on how to prepare your trees for display. I hope this video gives you tips and techniques to make your trees look their very best.
This tree is a dwarf white pine, and I'm going to prep it to show. It looks pretty good, but there's subtle stuff that you need to pay attention to. There's a lot of little needles, and as you circle around, you'll find these things. You can tweeze those off. Mostly it's the up-down, the needles that are going down, and these are new, this is new growth. But I can definitely just pull off a couple of these, so if I go just pinch that off, like this stuff, just pinch it off. Because you want it to be fairly flat under here, so even some of the needles that are sticking down, and there's dead needles. So you're going to have to circle this thing around many, many, many times. And I've got little wires hanging around that I've taken part way off. I wasn't planning on showing this. So these have been on here a long time. I should be able to take off those wires. And as I'm going along, you can see I'm brushing off and old needles are falling down. So rather than making a ton of work for yourself, you might want to cover up this soil, although we are going to take this off, because you're going to have to pull all of those, make sure all those needles are gone off the surface, which you'll do with the soil. But tons of little, kind of brush it, and all this stuff comes off. Any of the needles coming down, dead needles. I don't need to rewire anything. I've got a wire hanging down here that's just hanging down there. So keep circling around and looking at it and see what you need to do to it. I don't think there's much else I need to do. I have to decide what to do with this. Actually, just a light brushing, I think, might get some of there's debris around the trunk. So kind of go around that and look at that. You want to make sure you don't touch the bark on the surface, because that's part of that shows the age. Anything else you can think of that I need to throw out there?
Not really, just do a little bit of pruning, clipping off a little bit of the new growth.
Stuff sticking up.
The things that are sticking up, cleaning the needles out, all the dead needles.
Yeah.
Go through and clean out the dead needles.
So hopefully this one won't take very long.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah, just kind of giving it a little bit of cosmetic.
Yeah. Subtle stuff.
Subtle
And
stuff.
you'd be surprised how much it changes when you pull off the needles that are sticking down, because you really have that nice straight surface base underneath the pads. Okay.
Okay.
This is the white pine. I've prepped the top part. I took the needles off from underneath, most of them, and a few of the sticky outs. And if we have most of the dead needles, I'll get more of those right before the show. So now we're ready to move down to this area, and I didn't do anything to protect it. I've got wire on here. I've got lots of dead needles that came off when I brushed this. So now we're going to prep the soil, the top dressing. So to do that, I have to take this off, and while I'm doing that, Renee's going to talk to you about what our options are. So all I'm doing is setting this and just scraping it off.
Okay, so options for top dressing. For most people, or for most of the more experienced bonsai people, they like to put moss on the surface of their trees. So of course, in a year like this year, it's very difficult to find moss to put on your trees. But if you can find moss and you know how to do a mossing job, that's probably the absolute best you can do for prepping the surface of the soil. If you can't find moss, if you're not comfortable with mossing your tree, there are options. The primary goal is just to clean the surface so the surface of the soil is clean and kind of nice and neat, tidy looking. All the weeds and debris and stuff are cleaned off of the top of the pot, of the soil, the top of the soil on the pot. So if you can't find moss, we have a couple of other options. One, I think the next probably best thing that I like is just some very fine akadama. And this akadama is what is left over from when I sift for repotting. I save all of the fine stuff from the repotting and sifting. So I have a whole big bucket of this nice fine akadama. It's all, you know, sized to one size, so it looks nice and neat and uniform on the surface of the pot. So that's the next option. The third option would be, a lot of people like to use lava, some fine lava on the surface. This too is okay. I don't save my really fine lava, so this is a little bit coarse. It's what I actually use for potting soil. But if this is all that you had, then it would be okay to use this. So those are the options for top dressing for the pot. And you can see Carmen has cleaned off the surface of the soil here. She's cleaned off the surface of the soil, and we're ready to.
Well, one thing first, if you want to clean your pot and you already have the soil taken off, you can use one of these little, mine is more into nubs.
I have one that isn't.
So after you dress it, you really can't get into this edge right here. So if you want to, if you have a lot of deposit, you can actually rub this off. And this pot's not too bad. But you can get in there and rub this off, because sometimes no matter what you do, you can't quite get this out of there. Also, since we're here, I didn't even notice this, but I have wire here. And it's been in there a long time, so I can cut the wire off. There's some more wire up front, so we're gonna cut, actually that looks like it's gonna fall off. Cut that off. Okay, any last minute thing, and you can do this later where you can see right in here, you'll find needles and things that you can pull off. So once you're done, gotten everything off of there, and you're happy.
I still see needles.
I'm not gonna worry about it. I can get those, there will be more needles right before the show. You may need to clean some needles. So, it's okay.
You wanna take that root off?
No.
No, okay.
I will worry about it later. I mean, things like this, yes, you could pull that off, or you can pin it down. If it's alive and you wanna keep it, you can always pin it down with a fine wire. But I'm not gonna worry about it right now.
Okay.
Okay, so we are ready.
So you're gonna put akadama?
My akadama.
You want your akadama? Okay. Your akadama.
My akadama. Thank you. So, alright, and we're just gonna spread. And sometimes you'll do this and you'll find these little like bits of the other soil that's sticking out. Just kind of pull those out, because you want it to be a fine, homogeneous, uniform.
Like a carpet that's just been vacuumed.
So you get it, so you've got some on there, and then you just use your hand,
Just smooth it
out. And if you wanted to, you could put a little bit of moss. If you have some like a crevice area like this, you could always put a little bit of moss in there if you wanted to. But if you only put it in one teeny tiny spot, it's going to draw your eye, so let's not even bother. But it's an option. If you want to make it look a little bit, tamper, okay. You want to tamp? Go ahead.
To really make it nice and uniform looking, this is a tool for tamping down the soil. It makes it nice and flat and uniform looking. It just makes it look neat. And that's kind of what we want. We just want it to look nice and neat and clean for the show.
We're pulling out little bits of, that's a piece of bark, so you can see the colors. Sometimes you'll have little pieces. I use decomposed granite, so that shows up. People don't have this tool, is there something else they could use?
Well, you could use spatula or, you know, just anything that's kind of flat that will,
So if you had this kind of the tool with like that, you could be a little.
you could do that, yeah, just, this has a little bit wider, broader, flat area on it, so it kind of covers more ground and it makes it look a little bit more uniform.
And you'll notice. Okay. All right. You want to hit the. Was this water?
This is just some water, so we're going to dampen the akadama. That'll darken it a bit, and it kind of makes it a little bit nicer looking.
So we tend to, if you have a tree in the show, we will do this also. Usually in the morning, we will come out in and spray the trees so they don't dry out. And to try to keep everything nice. See, every little tiny thing now shows up on this clean lawn. So should we do the safer?
Oh, safer?
Yep.
Okay.
So this is another little trick that you can use to, she did. If you want to brighten up your needles or your leaves, so anything, because this is safer, which is an insecticide, an insecticidal soap. And besides then killing some of the bugs that you don't want to share with your other members in the club, it also gives it kind of a, darkens it a little bit, gives it a little bit of a shine.
Mm-hmm.
And it stays for a couple of days. So let's give that a back off without a
Do we
whirl.
want to do that here?
Sure. You can get close. Really turn it, wait till you get
I should start at the top and go down.
go down. Yeah.
Would be better to do it that way. Okay.
And of course, as you keep turning it, you'll find more things that you want to, tiny little things to
When
pick
you-
at. Pick at.
When you think about it, every time you look at a tree, when you're getting it ready for show, every time you look at it, you're gonna see something that needs to be done. So you may think you're done and finished, but I guarantee if you take another look at it, you're gonna find other things that need to be done. So just, you know, work on it once, you know, get it ready, then go in and take another look at it, and really, very, discriminating eye, and look at it very closely, because you're always going to find some little things that you can tweak to make it look just a little bit better.
And our last thing to do, and I've already, this has kind of cleaned it from the safer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so our pot is fairly clean, and now we need to oil the pot, which is gonna have, so it keeps that nice sheen, and you really wanna do this earlier, because you don't want a super shiny pot.
How many
And-
days in advance?
As
Like
soon-
a week?
A week,
A week.
a week.
Probably a week in advance.
So multiple things you can do to oil a pot. This is what I use. I use petroleum jelly. Kathleen uses olive oil.
And I got sucked into buying this expensive camellia oil, which I didn't really need, but now that I have it, I'm using it. So this is what I use. But once it's gone, I'll probably go to something a lot less expensive.
Vince uses mineral oil.
Yeah, Vince uses
This is
mineral oil. Just something to, anything that has like an oil base to it.
Yeah, that'll stay. All right. So, shall we use your camellia oil?
You wanna use this? Okay, yeah, well, I got my rag here, so
Okay.
this'll work.
Maybe we'll just do the front and the two sides. Okay. So, and now it's wet, so you're really not gonna be able to see it. If you do it dry, maybe the next one will do dry.
I'll do dry, yes.
Because you can do it, but if it's already wet, you're not gonna be able to tell if you missed a spot. Like it's obvious if you miss a corner, or the feet are difficult also to get, and I usually go around the top. And you have to get into every little nook and cranny. And sometimes if you have space, you kind of need to go under that edge also, and there's a spot right
There's a
there.
spot right there, yeah.
Feet, and you can just kind of lift it up to get the feet. because sometimes they're more ornate and a little bit more difficult to do. All right, I'm not going to do the back. So there is our tree, I think. And again, but do it now and then before the show, keep coming back and looking at it to see if there's little things sticking out that you might want to get out. And oops, there's a thing right there I want to pull. It's a constant thing, but you've got a week.
Yeah, that's why you start early, because so that way you have plenty of time to keep revisiting it, you know, doing little things that really make it special. This is a special time for your trees. This is a chance to show them off. It's like getting dressed up for a ball or something, or a big event. This is their time to shine.
The Met Gala of Bonsai Show.
The big gala, yes. Yeah. So let them show off their stuff, but you got to help them.
Okay.
Okay.
This is one of the trees we're going to prep for the show next week. It's a twisted pomegranate, and it's Vince Au Young's. So you can see it's kind of wild, and we want it to look wild. But what we need to do to it is cut off this young growth so they keep everything down. We have things growing in, so that definitely needs to be cut back. And we're going to take a picture of it afterwards. There's a few little spots, and Vince pointed them out. There's dead branches. There's one here. So what you're going to want to do is slowly turn around. There's another one up there, and you're going to see them as you turn it around. Of dead branches that you want to trim back. This has a little bud, so that definitely gets left on. This could be cut. Back here we have a big dead branch, but Vince wants to keep that because it's nice back, but what we can do is kind of hide it by wiring this down. And there's two branches, so we could wire that down, and that's going to cover it, and that's going to make a nicer back that you can see right there. Okay, so basically mostly a lot of trimming. We're going to have this huge wire. You really don't want this huge wire. So we're going to cut this off, and it should stay put. It's been there for a while, year?
Not that long, not that long.
Not that long. Hopefully it'll stay put.
Right.
Okay. And then you can see what's lovely about this is the bark. He has brushed the bark because it was pretty rough. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this how did you brush it?
Use a stiff toothbrush.
Okay, so not a wire brush, just a
Well,
toothbrush.
I use both.
Both. Okay, wire brush, toothbrush. And then we're going to go ahead and finish prepping it, and you're going to see the after. Is there anything I missed? So it's mostly just trimming, pretty simple stuff.
Then you have to oil this pot.
And we'll oil the pot. We're going to replace the soil, and you also need to take a look right at the baseline. This looks good. I'm going to leave this moss here because otherwise you're going to see a hole there. So it's kind of nice to have something there for the moss. So one more turn around. So that's basically what we're going to do with this tree, and we'll see the after. This is the twisted pomegranate. We've trimmed it away. Now we're going to moss this one. This is the coarse soil, the original soil, but to have the moss stick and to look good, we need to top dress it with akadama, and we've already partially done that. We're going to do another little bit of it in the front, partially moss the front so you can see.
We'll put fine akadama, and this is a nice bed for the moss. The moss will sit nicely on it, comes in contact with it really good.
So not as critical.
Not as critical.
Okay. Moss.
Let's
Moss. All right, there's our moss. Renee's gonna hit one side, I'm gonna hit the other. moss.
Moss, I was just gonna leave it down there.
Okay, just a varied, different colors, different shades, not all the same. Okay. Little different textures, which makes it look better than just one homogeneous moss draped over the whole thing. So you saw how tiny some of those little pieces of moss you put in. Tamp it down really, really well, and you're gonna have to keep it moist because if it dries, it's all gonna separate. Anything else you need to know?
Just keeping it moist.
Keep it moist, so you
And
don't,
if you have birds in your yard,
yeah,
be careful because they'll get in and they'll rip it all up. So you might want to, put it in a place where the birds can't get to it.
so if you just want moss it just a couple of days before the show, that's probably your safest bet, or have some extra moss that you might need to take out a few pieces and replace them. So there it is.
So what do we have?
But we need to clean them.
We're just doing the front of it for you guys.
Well, you can just zip right through this.
So we'll